at our event in July. We had a roundtable session in July. But before I go on, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about Integrity. The organization, we're basically an anti-corruption research and advocacy CSO, so civil society organization or NGO, whichever one. And we do a lot of activities trying to get transparency and accountability in the public life. We also have a sister company that is more targeted towards the private sector. It's called the Convention on Business Integrity. I don't know if you've heard of the Christopher Collade series, lecture series. We do that as well. But that's our sister organization based in Lagos. It's a business membership organization. We work with private sector companies to help improve governance. So in that case, it would be corporate governance. Whereas in the public sector, we're looking at governance issues, accountability issues, and transparency issues. Integrity, over the years, we've come up with a lot of tools that can be used by the public. So not only do we engage the government or the public sector, we try to empower people, try to empower individuals to understand what it means to have good governance, what the effects of corruption is to us as a society and to you individually. So we last created, I don't know if anyone has heard of egunje.info in the room. It's a bribe payers platform where you can report having paid a bribe. Maybe during the presentation of this, our new tool, I will get the presenter to also show egunje and how you can report a bribe if you've ever had that experience. I think almost everyone has had that. So without any further ado, we have a very short, limited time today. I'd like for everyone to introduce themselves. My name is Doyin Olawaye. I am the project manager for this project. The name of the project is Track, Analyze, Map, and Expose Corruption Risk. We call it Project TAME. I hope some of you have seen our videos. We've tried to put it out on social media and also on television. So without further ado, I'll start with you, sir. If you can just get up, tell us who you are, what you're doing, organization, and what your interests are. Because we really want to ensure that our interests are aligned. So if you're here and you're not really passionate about governance, maybe you can bring someone that is more passionate about governance.
Or they can start to be passionate.
Oh, they can start. Hopefully we can inspire you to be passionate about governance. So, sir.
Morning. Abraham Emeato, CEO of the Global International Foundation. We are into sensitization and education and ensuring the advocacy for victims of whistleblowers. So that's what we are doing.
Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Ben Okoye. I'm one of the church admin in ICCG by the grace of the Lord. I know physics. I'm very, very interested in this. I'm passionate about testimony and mapping out corruption.
Good morning, all. My name is Kelechi Osumi. I'm a graduate of economics. I coordinate the young Catholic students at Abuja. I'm very interested in the project.
Good morning, all. I'm Thomas Okoye. I'm independent assessor, one of the first graduated assessors in 2012. And we've carried out a lot of assessment in the port sector, we've done well, that in the education sector. So I'm here to see how we can take corruption risk assessment to the next level. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Lukman Adekola. I work with Sisla Tertiary in Korea. I'm also a certified risk assessor. Thank you.
You say you are with Thomas to do everybody.
When I was coming, I was a member of Nigerian Law Enforcement Agency in the you are interested in your project? I report for Maybe International College.
Okay. EFMC, Cases and Family Medical Center, as a program assistant. The question is to know more about how to take transference to next level using technology, web application technology, tools.
My interest at knowing things to fight corruption in various things.
My name is Michelle Wabu. I'm interested in this project. I'm self-employed.
Good morning. My name is Johnson Ogunjiko. I'm an IT specialist in data analysis, consult. So I'm interested in getting an account. I'm interested in
Good morning, all. My name is Uluasha Sanford-Justina. I'm also here to learn more on how to track, according to that TAME, to track, analyze, map, and expose corruption. Because corruption is something that cuts across the board. So in my own field, I also like to go and apply it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Martins. I'm a geophysicist and I'm interested in coding. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Eshara Noah Samson. While serving, I work with JPC.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Okoro Rufus. While serving as South JPC Kaka, I'm interested in the project.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Oshima Lewis. I'm very much interested in this project.
Good morning. My name is Angela Yamina. I talk for Galano.
My name is Rod. I'm an investigative journalist and I own a news website called Tertiary. So my interest is to write stories about transparency and accountability for materials.
My name is I report for a co-worker.
My name is Helen Madden. I'm interested in the program. I'm an assessor.
She's the one who confirms whether we are compliant or not. She's our compliance manager.
Thank you, everyone. So we'll stop now. Okay, Mr. Oke, can you introduce yourself? Introduce yourself to the...
My name is Okejo. I'm one of the drivers of the
My name is Babatunde Luajo. My colleague I work with her and others on this project and other things that Integrity does. The idea of this project is that we want to incentivize compliance. We have seen the failure of prosecution and criminalization. Has anybody seen the report of the Bureau of Statistics? And UNODC, okay, our partners, so we need to mention them too. They actually funded it to the tune of $30 million to conduct that baseline study. And the importance of that baseline study is that it tells us where exactly the problem lies. Apart from police, the second highest, in Nigeria said the second highest number of people who have demanded life from them are prosecutors. Then the third is judges and magistrates. And you know the implication of that, the danger of that is that even if EFCC, ICPC does their work, and the prosecutor becomes criminally induced, it's going to mess up the case. In case he manages to be a man of integrity and did not mess up the case, by that report, the next person is either the magistrate or the judge. And that simply means that if you manage to have a prosecutor as a man of integrity, you may not likely get a judge who has integrity. And it should therefore not be surprising to you and I why many high-profile cases have either failed or they keep being postponed. tell me a country that can really make headway if your police, your prosecutors, and your judges are the highest number of people. If they're the one that the prevalence of corruption is highest among those three sets of in those sectors: police, prosecutors, and your judges. Tell me how you can make headway. So even if you have, with due respect, if you have our Lord Jesus Christ or the only Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as your head of state, you cannot have a society that will work for the citizens of the country. Because even if EFCC arrests, can EFCC, even if they prosecute, can they be the judge? It therefore shows that we need to look for a new approach to fight corruption. And the new approach, which is not necessarily novel to us, is that is it possible for us to look at those things that make corruption very easy in our society? And that's the whole idea of corruption risk assessment. To look at the system of our institutions. What are those areas where corruption is prevalent? What are those processes? What are those transactions that encourages corruption or that makes it easy for corruption to thrive? And that's the essence of Project TAME. To track, analyze, map, and expose corruption. And what do we intend to do with this project? We want to do system study. And as I said earlier on, jokingly, there are two people here who have been products of corruption risk assessment by the UNDP, as well as the ICPC, as well as the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reform. And given the role that integrity played in that process, we felt that we need to expand the number of Nigerians who have the capacity to be able to track, map, analyze, and expose corruption. And the idea of this project is not to go and catch a thief. The idea is to even prevent corruption from taking place by looking at those things, those transactions, those processes that makes it easy or possible for corruption to take place, and then coming up with antidotes, suggesting measures that can be taken to reduce the risk of transaction. And that is the essence of this project. And for our would-be assessors, please, you are not going to end up becoming thief catchers. Your duty will be, when you go through this whole process, to be able to look at public institutions who have individually assessed themselves to say, okay, we are compliant in this area. Our public procurement process, for example, is compliant. We have a procurement committee. We have obeyed all the laws of the procurement. We have obeyed every provision of the Public Procurement Act. For you to go and say, okay, if you say you are compliant, do you have this document, or what are the proof to show us that you are compliant? And for us to use that as a basis to tell government that institutions who are making efforts to reduce their exposure to corruption, can we give them incentive such that other institutions can now copy? And and as a pilot, we did a pilot of 11 universities in Nigeria. And some of you were there when some of them came about some weeks back to have a conversation with us, to tell us, okay, this is what we are doing, this is what we have in place, so that others can now copy, they can learn from themselves. I mean, what you call peer learning. Because even the way it is now, if we don't focus on corruption, given this recent study, the chances are that we may continue to chase the thief, we may catch them, but the chances of those thieves or those who have looted our commonwealth being punished is very low. It shows that we need to change tactics. And that, for me, that is one of the major value of that particular research. It's a benchmark. It tells us where we need to focus as a country. Therefore means that we need to incentivize the police to understand the fact that when we combat corruption, they as police, their work can become reduced, they can get more resources. Do we need to incentivize our prosecutors such that they understand the fact that it's in their own enlightened self-interest that those who have looted our commonwealth, they need to be brought to justice? Do we need to incentivize the judges for them to understand that after God, they are the only one who have the power of life and death? Because in a democratic society, even the president cannot say go and kill somebody. It's only a judge who has the power after God in any democratic society to say this one is guilty, please, he should be killed. No any other person has that power. And if society has given you that power, you should understand the enormity of the responsibility you hold. If after we give you all that power, you now become somebody who can want to become a trader, who can buy and sell, you know our society is in danger. Today is not for preaching, it's just to give a background to this project. So what we are trying to do is to encourage public institutions to try to put measures in place to reduce their risk of corruption. It is those of you here who are with us, who have shown interest, who will go through this process, who will go to these places to go and confirm. It's okay, we are compliant, our procurement process is compliant with the Public Procurement Act. Show us your procurement plan. Show us evidence there's a procurement committee. I mean, show us evidences that people in the process, you have a box for people to come and drop, their bid. Show us evidence that you went through the process one by one. And on the basis of that, we can say, okay, this particular entity is making effort to be very compliant. Some are not making effort at all. And on the basis of that, we can now start to tell government, let us encourage those who have made efforts. Because if we don't do that, given our states, given what the NBS report just showed us, I don't know. But for me, I'm not somebody who have lost hope. If I have lost hope, maybe I will not be here. Because for you and I, we have no other country. This is our country. Many of those men who are trying to beat the drums of war, many of them are not Nigerians. Many of them they have multiple citizenship. If there's any crisis today, they are the ones who first leave. And they will even turn around to be selling arms to both sides, every side of the crisis. We have seen it happen. When there was a crisis in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria went to intervene. What is their population? They are barely the population of Lagos. If there is any issue today, who is going to contain us? Which country will come and say, okay, let us go and contain them? Only Lagos population, over 25 million. If they all leave Lagos and go to the West African region, between you and I, that region may not know peace in the next 2 decades. You pay for water by digging borehole. Any day you and your community, you go and organize private security, or any day you go and give your brother money for the child of education of his child, or the wife is not well. What we are doing is we are subsidizing government. In other parts of the world, that is not the business of a citizen. Government takes care of that, and it has happened in this country. I grew up in this nation, in Lagos State. As a kid growing up, if I have an headache, my teacher gives me a note, I go to the public hospital. I get priority service. My mother does not need to know, my father does not need to know. I don't need to go. Once, if you know kids, if you are very active, all of a sudden you are quiet, your teacher comes to you, what's wrong with you? Today, what's this? You're out. A note. Somebody will even take you to the hospital. You get priority service. Your mother and your father does not know. But today, what are the things people come to ask us for money for? You and I. My wife is sick. My child is sick. And I cannot pay school fee. My rent has expired. In other words, every time we do that, we are subsidizing the government. So instead of them accusing us of being the one giving us subsidy, that's when they talk of subsidy, I get very angry. Because we subsidize them every day. We have become a local government. You dig borehole, you pay for security, you pay for school, you buy fuel for generator. So the point therefore is this, that given the current reality, what can we do as citizens? One of the things we can do is to encourage public institutions to take actions to be able to prevent the leakages that has brought us to where we are. 400 million is what we pay, you and I, every year for bribe. That is bribe alone, what comes from our pockets. We are not talking of the stealing of government money. You and I, to get services, 400 billion, and majority of us who are here, who are in the age of youth, they say we are the ones who pay more. Please, if you have not read that report, go make effort to go and read the NBS report. Annually, Nigerians pay 400 billion to public officials just to get service that you are entitled to. 400 billion. Gentlemen, I simply think as citizens, we cannot just not fold our hands and continue to do. We are not saying you should not become, go and carry the gun and be chasing people. But we can encourage public institutions to do what is right. And this is what this project is all about. I want to call my colleague. As I said, it's not a preaching session. It's rather a call to action for us to understand that we can play a certain role. And that if we don't play it, we are victims. We are all victims. 400 billion. including the 50 naira you give to some policeman, 200 naira. That's what I did. You know, 400 billion is no chicken change. Imagine if that money is in our pockets as Nigerians and we can have it to invest in our economy. Imagine the multiplier effect 400 billion we have in our economy. Or it is for consumption. Even those, and I'm sorry if you don't, let me use this imperfect example. All the money that between the Ziani and our people that was got missing, did you get of any investment? Is it not somebody buying penthouse in New York? Somebody buying a yacht? Somebody buying some exotic painting? That's not investment in our economy. So when we pay bribe or people steal what is our own, it is for consumption. The only thing that we can invest is that our legitimate money, but unfortunately that legitimate money, 400 billion of it, we end up paying as bribe and they go to use it for consumption. We therefore need a new way to see what we can do as citizens. That is what we're trying to do. By the time we fully roll out this app, public institutions can say, okay, for us we are compliant. If you say you are compliant, you and I, you, all of us seated here, you can be appointed, go to that place, go and confirm after you have gone through the training. Once again, welcome, Mr. Maron. Can you please give us an idea of what the system will look like on the food
Track, analyze, map, and expose corruption risks. And that's a key point. Corruption risks, not corruption. We are trying to look at the systems. We are trying to analyze the processes that organizations use to carry out their activities and tighten up those gaps. Basically provide solutions to those gaps that people use to commit acts of fraud and other forms of corruption. So what I'm going to give you people today is just a brief demonstration of the system, how it works, what it's intended to do, and the key use cases for this system. So every organization, every sector of Nigerian economy experiences corruption, and organizations in these various sectors will be able to benefit from the system. So the first use case is for people who are within these organizations. These are the people that we call self-assessors. Basically, an organization will create an account on the system, and from that account, they'll be able to carry out assessments on their processes as an organization, see whether they have specific antidotes, that's what we call them, antidotes to these corruption risks in their organization's processes. And if they don't, it gives them a rating and it shows them where exactly they need to be able to step up or improve their processes to be able to block out corruption. The second use case is for independent assessors, which some of you here are going to be. Independent assessors are the ones who would go into the system after an organization has carried out its own assessments and look at the assessments that this organization has carried out. Basically analyze what this organization has said it has, that it has this antidote in place to this particular corruption risk, that it has this particular solution to this particular leakage or this particular way for corruption to take place. The independent assessors are supposed to look at these, go to the organizations, analyze and see if they actually have these antidotes in place and give their own assessments. That would also be represented on the system. Now the third part is for public assessors, or in other words, members of the public. Members of the public are supposed to be able to go into the system, look at the ratings that have been carried out either by independent assessors or by the organization self-assessors, and give their own feedback. Do they agree with what they see? If, for instance, we use a particular organization in the public sector and the rating says that this organization has very, very minimal exposure to corruption risk, the independent assessor has said the same thing. You as a member of the public, do you agree with their assessments? You will also be able to give your own feedback in the form of a subjective rating that shows people, other people who come to visit the system, that you don't really agree with this because you've experienced this particular form of corruption, or you do agree, yes, this particular entity or this particular organization has very, very minimal exposure to corruption risk. I agree with what the rating says. So, okay, let me just quickly walk you through the system. Like I said, this is the home page. And from this bar here, this allows you to search either for organizations that you want to rate or for corruption schemes that are currently in the system, because that's another function of the system. It allows you to learn about corruption schemes. Apart from rating, you can also
for the sake of learning, you want to know what exactly bribery is and how exactly bribery is taken care of in an organization. So it allows you to search for corruption schemes, and from that search, you can now see the kind of antidotes that an organization will put in place. So you don't have to rate yourself sometimes. You can just go there for the sake of improving business processes. You want to learn how to reduce leakages in your system, and you can also learn about it. So you can search from here, either for schemes or for organizations, and if you move further down, you can actually see ratings that have been carried out. Now, the pilots of this system, the initial data that we put in was for universities, because that's what we carried out our research with. We, like Mr. Babatunde said, we looked at 11 universities, we analyzed their processes, and from the research that we did, we were able to pick out corruption schemes that happen in the university system. So what you see here is results of ratings, test ratings that have been carried out on different universities. As it is now, it's showing only University of Nigeria, but that's one of the tests. That's one of the universities that we visited, and all these colors, red, orange, green. What it means at the end of the day is that for this particular assessment that was carried out, it's just like a traffic light system. Green means good, orange means it could be better or average, and red means that there's a really, really serious exposure, that is a really serious risk. And from here, you can actually click on a particular rating and say, okay, this is for University of Nsukka. This entity, this university is rated amber red for exposure to corruption risk in information systems. That's where the rating was carried out, on information systems in particular, because you can rate the various aspects of it. You can rate financial processes, you can rate admissions processes. Like we said, it's for universities right now, but when we expand the system, you'll be able to take care of the various aspects of different aspects of business, because academic processes is not something that you will find in a public sector organization. That's specific to universities. These are the antidotes. You can see the details that, okay, the university or the person who carried out this assessment said that these two antidotes are in place, but these two are not in place, and that's what basically what all of that means, that the checks, these are the checks that are supposed to be in place, and these are what is missing. So it shows you the details of that particular assessment that was carried out, in this case, an assessment on the university's information systems. So for each rating that's carried out in the system, for each of these, you can actually see the results. And if you click on each of them, you can see the breakdown, the details of what exactly was carried out. And here you can actually see a list of schemes in the system, violations of rules, procedures, guidelines, inflation, of course. These are different types of schemes that we've researched and that show what happens in university systems. You can click on read more to see the details of each scheme as well as the antidotes, because like I said, it's a learning system. So it's not just for ratings, but it's also for people to be able to learn more about corruption schemes and how to take care of them. So let me walk you through the process of carrying out a rating. Now in the first use case, let's say I personally am a staff of University of Nsukka, for instance, or University of Nigeria. And I've heard about this system. I register. How it works is you register to create an account. In the process of registration, you select which type of account you want to create. Or you create a basic account first of all. Then you select what kind of assessor you want to be. Do you want to be a self-assessor, or do you want to be an independent assessor? I'm guessing most of you here will be independent assessors. But when we start pushing it out, people from organizations, those will be people who we call self-assessors. Now, in this case, I choose to be a self-assessor. So in the system, I register, then I request to be a self-assessor. I select which organization I'm representing, what sector it's supposed to be in, and I submit my application. We at the back end would actually review the application, make contact with the university or the entity in this case to find out that if you are really a representative of that institution that you're trying to rate before we approve your process. Now, if you go through all of that, what you will be able to do is log into the system and you will be able to access your user dashboard. Your user dashboard is supposed to be what you, as a self-assessor, see to be able to gain access to ratings for the entity that the self-entity of, in this case, University of Nigeria in this case. So I click on create a self-rating and it asks me what's our organization or what sector. Obviously it's education. And to select the organization, it's only University of Nigeria because in my application process I selected that that's the organization I represent. So that's the only organization I'm going to be able to rate as a self-assessor. and so I select University of Nigeria. What happens next is I select the specialization. Now these are the various facets of the university's organization that you can read. Different processes, so there's finance and management, specific allowances, professional misconduct, information systems, appointments, deployment. Basically all the processes that the university goes through to be able to run its business. And you can select any one of them. Let's say for instance I choose information systems and I now carry out the ratings process. Of course, before I start the process, it warns me that I have to answer these all questions, because at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. I'm a representative of an organization. This is going to be a public rating that everybody is going to see. So you want to present your organization in the best light. So it's obvious that you have to answer every question. You have to provide all the necessary details and answer as accurately as possible, so that the rating is not affected in any negative way. So having said all of that, we now proceed with the ratings process. Now, it starts by giving you the details of each scheme as well as the antidotes to each scheme. For instance, I selected information systems as the particular specialization, and the first scheme it has here is misrepresenting, manipulating data and misrepresenting facts. Now all of these are the antidotes, and it allows you to select whether you have this particular antidote in place. I'm a representative of the university, so if I'm selecting information systems, it means I have something to do with the information systems department or the university, which means I'm in a position to be able to answer these questions accurately. And not just answer the questions. If, for instance, I choose for this particular existence of IT systems for managing data, and I select yes, it actually asks me how this antidote was implemented. You have to give details. You can't just say yes and move on. You need to provide details of how exactly information systems or an IT data management system was implemented in your university. Yes, you give details, because at the end of the day, the independent assessor is based on these details that the independent assessor is going to come through and look, verify, do you actually have these processes in place, do you actually have these antidotes in place, and of course that's what will influence his own rating of your organization. So let's just say, for the sake of this test, I'm not going to put too much data, I'm just going to say yes. I'm just going to say yes to or let's say no to all the remaining, because at the end of the day, let's say that's the only antidote I have in place, and for the sake of this test I just want to put no, so you actually see what happens when a university doesn't have, or when an entity doesn't have all the necessary antidotes in place to corruption schemes. Now this is the next scheme, payment for information that should be provided free of charge. Because I don't want to fill in data again, I'm being lazy, let me just say no. And that's it for this particular sector of the university's processes, which is information systems. Now all this data that we have here is based on the research that we did, and we're going to continue developing the system, adding in more information for different sectors, because at the end of the day, the kind of schemes that the university is vulnerable to is different from what any other organization is vulnerable to. So in this place, I choose to now view the results, and here you can now see, similar to what we saw earlier on, University of Nigeria. This entity, University of Nigeria, is rated red, in other words, very bad for exposure to corruption risks in information systems. And you can now see the details of what I did, the only one I selected as having, and of course all the rest that were deselected as not having the antidotes in place. So now this is me as a representative for an organization. I've carried out a self-assessment. The self-assessment is available to everybody to look at. What an independent assessor, which is the second use case of this system, what an independent assessor will now do is he would look at this rating, look at the evidence that has been provided in each case, and actually carry out his own rating on the entity. If he has access to the entity, physical access to the entity, he can actually go there and carry out this rating and put his own rating into the system to be able to match what is actually available there, so people can see the difference. That this particular entity says they have all of this in place, but according to a trained, verified independent assessor, none of this is actually in place. Now the third use case is actually for members of the public who come into the system and don't necessarily need to create an account, but can actually rate entities that are in the system. Back on your homepage, remember I said that we have lists of institutions here. Now, this list is here, but you can actually still search from the search bar. If you don't see what's available on the front page, you can actually still search for your institution, and from there you'll be able to rate the institution. But I'm going to go from the home page, and let's just say I pick this university now. I can actually carry out a rating based on this. Let's say particular Bayero University in this case. How do I rate it? On a scale of 1 to 5, I can say I rate it average. Have you ever encountered any scheme at play in this entity? If I select yes, it can now actually allow me to select which class or which entity or which sub-sector of the university's processes did I see, and let's say financial mismanagement. I select that now. I can now provide details of what exactly I encountered. Okay, maybe I was a student of the university and they actually asked me to pay money before I could get admission or pay money to get accommodation in the halls of residence, anything like that. And once you finish with that, you can now choose to rate your entity, and it puts that rating 2 on the system, available for anybody to be able to see. So all these ratings are they are public, it's available to anybody on the system, and apart from just people who use the system to carry out ratings or to learn, members of the public or journalists, for instance, can go there, look at the results, and be able to analyze and see, okay, this is the most reported as far as universities are concerned. This is the scheme that a lot of universities are vulnerable to, or this is the scheme that a lot of federal parastatals are vulnerable to. These are the kind of antidotes that are easy to implement. Anybody can use the system to basically perform analysis and look for antidotes, because at the end of the day, we are tracking corruption risk. We are looking for how to solve these problems. We are not trying to shame anybody, we are actually trying to improve systems. Because like we say, prevention is better than cure. So the system is supposed to help people prevent corruption, and the prevention is by blocking the holes that this corruption can actually take place. So that's my brief demo of the system. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Let me see 1 or 2 questions.
Sure. Do you have any tools to check maybe compromise between the independent and assessor? For the role of the independent assessor is to go and verify. Do you have any mechanism in place to check whether you don't compromise, as in maybe go with the result of self-assessment?
In the system,
yes. Right
now we don't. But at the end of the day, we are relying on 2 things. One is the integrity of the independent assessors, who we will interface with directly, because these are people who we know, some of them amongst you here, who would actually carry out the process. And secondly, even if the independent assessor and the self-assessor collaborate, the public assessment will always tell the truth. Because if somebody is telling that, oh, they have all these antidotes in place, and a member of that institution or somebody who interfaces with that institution regularly finds out that this is not true, of course he will come and see the truth, along with many other people. That's what the system is supposed to do. If there's distance between what the assessment is saying and what the public is saying, then there's obviously a lapse somewhere. So that's how the system is supposed to work. Anybody else?
Can an independent assessor self-assess as a public assessor?
Yes. Yes.
Isn't it possible for a university that takes it very serious to populate, sort of spam the platform by having people to go and make it look like the risks are not there?
Well, it's possible, but then the university, first of all, the self-assessor of the university is only one person. So as far as his own rating is concerned, if he puts it as a positive rating, very, very positive, the system will record it. If the independent assessor disagrees, that will show the first discrepancy. Then even if they spam it and cause people to just go there and put positive ratings, they can't bribe everybody in the university or everybody that interfaces with the institution. So this discrepancy will still show at the end of the day.
So if I may just say, I'm sorry. If you remember in the process of coming up with this, there was an intensive discovery debate. People were saying that everything was in place in a particular university. Everything was fine. But when we now ask them a follow-up question, I use an insurance, is it like your academic the academic standard? They all said, almost everybody said no. And they said everything is fine, there's no problem. But when we asked them a follow-up question, they said no. So we now ask ourselves, how come this can be this contradictory? you said everything was fine, you are all living happily ever after, but the first basic question, are you satisfied with the standard of academic, the academic standards? Yes, almost everybody said no. So the point therefore is that the system has been designed in a way that even if you spam it, there are follow-up questions that will show clearly that this answer and the example, even the limited studies we have conducted, and I'm sure we have something to share in that regard.
No, it's basically what he's saying. It's the way to pose the questions to actually get the truth out of people. So again, this is a presentation, public presentation, it's not a lunch. We are here to present and get feedback from everyone so that when the tool is rolled out eventually, everyone understands how to use it and how best to use it. So follow-up questions, the fact that we have 3 different methods, self-assessor, independent assessor, and the public ratings, and we are also going to, in the background, do our own analysis based on the trends that we see. So we will do further research if things are not adding up, so to say.
This thing is just like an audit. Yeah. I'm talking from the point, I'm a chartered accountant. I said it all humility. There's nothing attached. Is there a gap closure time? Because, for example, when you go to a given organization to audit them, you will give them a particular time. You found out S is not working as it's supposed to work. In a particular month, ensure that that S is closed. Is there anything like that in this web application that it will be finally rolled out?
Yes, eventually. Like I said, it's still under development, but we've actually considered that the fact that ratings will improve if an organization makes use of the system and they take the results of the system and actually work with it to improve their system, their own systems. They can come back and carry out ratings that shows an improvement. So with dates, we can actually show, okay, if you go to a particular organization, you can actually see as at July or August 2007, this was the rating, this was the independent rating. As at December 2017, this was the rating. It would eventually show the improvement or decrease, as the case may be, of the system's processes. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, actually, personally, I'm worried about the way the data is going to be shown for assessing. So you have self-assessor, independent assessor, and self-assessor. Now, how would that, especially from the independent assessor, when you have several people assessing one particular organization, how would that data go to be shown? So, for example, if I'm a journalist, for example, who want to look at the records of these assessments, what am I going to see? Am I going to see all the different assessments of the way it's coded?
Okay. It's not been implemented yet, but how it will work is this. For each entity in the system, for each organization, if you click on it, you will see the results. This organization was rated red, self-assessment. The independent assessment is this, and it can show the dates of each assessment. If it's more than one assessment, it can show you the history of each self-assessment that the organization has carried out, and the history of each independent assessment that has been carried out, all on one page. Then below that, because the public assessments are subjective, it doesn't go into as much detail as which schemes, which antidotes. Those will be shown as like comments. It was rated 3 stars by the public, and this is what the person said. He experienced this and this in a particular, or he didn't experience anything, or he was rated 5 stars and he didn't experience any corruption scheme, any corruption risk. All of it is going to be presented on one page with options for you to actually view more of the results from the independent assessment or the self-assessment. That's where you now see the breakdown. What we have right now is just the breakdown of each assessment. Probably independent assessment was carried out, these are the schemes, these are the antidotes. But eventually it's going to be presented on one page that shows all the details in summary, and you can actually click to view more of how it was. We are going to make it website only, accessible both on laptops or mobile devices or tablet PCs, anything that can access the internet. Yes.
And the second one is, at what percentage do you determine your corruption
rate, like maybe 50% of, maybe 60% of particular people said yes and 40% said no, or maybe 50-50, like, do you get what I'm saying?
The rankings.
Yes, how do you determine your rank? Yes.
Okay. Well, from the research we carried out, we had details of corruption schemes, and we had details of the antidotes. Now, we gave each antidote a weighting based on how much it affects that corruption scheme. Let's say, for instance, let's talk about the scheme for payment for, what do you call it? There was one I saw, payment for information that's supposed to be free. I think that was one of the schemes that we saw. So that's a scheme on its own. For each antidote, let's say the use of an electronic platform for administering information that's supposed to be available, something that's easily accessible. There's no way anybody can pay for that. We can rank something like that much higher than, say, reporting any opportunity or any instance where somebody asks for payment. Because if, for instance, the information that somebody's supposed to offer out information and he decides to request for payment, the person that's paying might not necessarily report it because he's getting the information at the end of the day.
No, what I'm asking is, okay, assuming this is the university environment now, okay, and like we are like 50, and 20 people said they are satisfied with the education process, and 30 said no. Like, is it like, okay, you say it's red, or you get what I'm saying? Like, is it okay, you should have a percentage, like, okay, 60 to 40, like, okay, 60 to say.
Oh, okay, the aggregate ratings. Okay.
Okay, thank you. For this particular system, when it comes to board, the critical basis for it will be self-assessment and independent assessment. We are going to take the general comments to see is this flowing in line with the two assessments, independent and self. Because the self-assessment that you'll be showing that we have this in place. The independent assessor will be knowing that yes, it's in place or no. The general public will just be commenting on the basis of their own perception. The language will not be based on whether they want to check whether those things are there. So the major weightings will be between the self-assessment and the independent assessment. But we want to see those who are using those services, what is the general trend? Is it in line with both the self-assessment and the independent assessment? So therefore, the weightings will be between self-assessment and independent assessment. The public assessment will just need to see whether it is in line with those claims made by that entity, as well as the verification that was made by the independent assessor. So the weighting will not be based on this thing. You should also see that, okay, it's like a check. You get the point I'm making? Because, okay, let me use one example. Procurement process. We have a procurement plan. If you have it, it should be available. If I come as an independent assessor, you say you have a procurement plan, that's your claim. Please, can I see it? If I can see it, good. If I cannot see it, I say no. Therefore means that on that note alone, you are failed. An independent assessor, the public, we will not ask for procurement plan. They may always say, okay, yes, one time I saw one advert. But is that advert, was it a product of procurement plan? Or is it that the visitors woke up one day on the wrong side of the bed and say we need to buy a car? You get the point I'm making? So the rating will be based largely on self-assessment and independent assessment, which is the verification. Then we want to see how this correlates with the views of those who are using that service.
Do you have a particular date for launching?
We have a tentative date end of the year. We don't have a particular date. But definitely, all of you here, because we've gotten your information, you will definitely hear about it.
I'm sorry, sir. And for our people, our independent assessors, will be independent assessors. We are hoping that the training will start to correlate with the date of the launch. So that by the time we launch, and those organizations who, especially those who have already shown interest, they start to self-assess. We can now say, okay, let's start our independent assessment.
I think you were making your presentation, or Maogade, was saying that we should be able to look at this and critique it.
Yes.
I think what my my, I would say, colleague is asking of is the rating. Because based on this, there are some organizations that are so large and there are some organizations that are small. For example, organizations that receive, let's say, 50 bid in a month, and there are some organizations that receive 10 bid in a month. And you are saying that out of that 50, 20 offer bribe. And this organization that receive 10, one offer bribe. Which one is higher?
Obviously, the organization, the larger organization.
It's more about processes. It's more about the process. What process do they have in place to prevent bribe? We're not saying, just like I said when I was talking, we're not going to become bribe catchers. One is to look at the system. Is this system resistant enough to prevent anybody from asking for bribe? For example, if you have a process where I can submit my bid online, it will be difficult for you to ask me for bribe. But if you make it that I need to come and see somebody throughout the whole process, it means the risk is higher. So if you have a system, and an organization that says, so we have a system for online bid reception, you know that they have already an anti-corruption measure in place. But if you have an organization where their system is manual, you go and collect form manually, you go and submit manually, you go and collect date for whatever manually, you know the risk is high. So it's about the processes.
And it doesn't matter whether it's one bid or 50 bids at the end of the day.
It's the system.
If I may ask, you said the availability of system is different from implementation of system. How do we check if it's implemented? Because if you just go and say, okay, is this plan available and check it, how do you know it's being implemented?
Which is where we asked for, if you notice, there was a space for somebody to provide details of how that particular accident is being implemented. And our trained independent assessors at the end of the day, they are going to look not just about the availability, this is a procurement plan that we have. Show us evidence of procurements that you've carried out in the past. Was due process followed? Did you actually follow this plan that you have? Those are the details they are going to be looking at that would affect the independent rating.
So if I may just add to that, for example, the issue of procurement, beyond having a procurement plan, you are supposed to have a procurement committee. If they met and agree that this is what we want to procure, there's supposed to be a minute. So if it's okay, this is our procurement plan, so and thereafter what happened? Can I see minute of the meeting? If they have not met, it will be difficult for them to manufacture what you are there. Maybe after you left, they may manufacture one. But if they don't have, as you are there and they cannot produce, and they say, you know what, go back in 2 days, we'll send it, you know that they have not implemented.
You see, this issue of implementation, because for someone to give you an accurate information, there are procedures. Because what I'm saying is, let me borrow the lead from this information act, which was actually even at the state level, where they say, okay, the launch is very hard. But as I'm talking to you, most of these public institutions, that sometimes when you write under the Information Act, asking the information, they will either tell you that I am not in charge of giving you the information. Go to the boss. And when you go to the boss would like to know why you are requesting. So I don't really know, is there any method that you people have actually in terms of, so that when you are going into this either private or public, to actually get the accurate information, whether there is measure that you are actually to ensure that they give you accurate
Well, first of all, implementation, like you said, is very, very important. So it's not just evidence, but we actually need to show records. If they are giving information freely, then there should be records of this, who they've given information to. The independent assessor is supposed to be able to verify this information. You said you gave information to this CSO. Contact the CSO. Did you actually receive information from this organization? If there's correlation then obviously you can actually mark that yes, this particular antidote against corruption is in place, as opposed to just having documents or an implementation plan, but not actually implementing it in the first place. So that's the job of the independent assessor. That's how they're supposed to help validate what a self-assessor will put into the system. The major onus is on the independent assessors to actually validate and verify every information that's been put into the system.
And so, in addition, please, this is actually, it is not, I mean, it is, organizations will be willingly, from their own be signing up to this. I mean, like the universities that we conducted an research, they willingly came to Abuja. They were not under obligation to come, but because they were incentivized to say, okay, we want to show that we are doing something and that our systems we have systems in place to reduce corruption. So ultimately, it's not about anybody dragging anybody. People are freely signing on to it to say, okay, we want to show that we have something to show. And the point is simply that the world is moving towards the point where, for example, if you look at the UK Bradley Act, that all of us will one way or another be subject to. What it requires from you is to show that you made efforts to reduce corruption. Corruption may occur, but what have you done to prevent it? Have you made any effort at all? And increasingly, people are trying to show that we are trying to be compliant. So it is about people freely signing, and if you freely sign up to something, and you make claims, and we come to say we want to verify, we expect that after you freely sign up to it, you want to say, okay, this is my proof. But if for any reason you refuse to show that proof, we are not going to drag you to court, but the result will be out there in the public. I mean, to say, for example, even the ICPC that has the power, when ICPC conducted a system review in the university system, what it did was to say, okay, these are our recommendations. In fact, it was at our meeting that ICPC was actually asking some of them that you made us a promise that you are going to tell us what you have done. We are talking about how many years after? Telling people to comply. That if you comply, there are a lot of positives that come with it. For example, universities, they are not just entities in Nigeria. Many of them get grants from abroad. This is the type of thing they can show that we are compliant, that if you give us your money for research, it will not end up in the vice chancellor's pocket. Because these are the processes we have in place to prevent that from happening. So it's about incentivizing compliance, that okay, do what is right, that if you do what is right, you can actually do good.
Public. Since basically I believe this application is literally for the people to see and review. Some of us don't want to have to read through all comments. Some people just want to come and check the numbers and see, okay, what's the average, what does it say? And maybe go through the independent assessor's assessment. So I'm thinking maybe there should be a source of ranking numbers to show for the public comment rather than having to read through each comment for someone that just comes online to just check it.
Okay, that's very, very good feedback. So we actually consult like an aggregate rating that shows, okay, because the public rating actually has a 5-star rating, so we can aggregate that to show that, okay, this is the independence, this is the self, and this is the aggregate of the public's own feedback based on. Okay, that's very good feedback, so we will probably implement that. Yes.
Also, I would like to also add this. There should be a form of data visualization for some of these itemized indicators. At the end of the day, for journalists to use, to make it public for people to know that, okay, these people are actually fine. So you will have that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Definitely take those on board. And in fact, please, this is the essence. Forget some of our response. You have a right to sit down and say, okay, no, I'm not, that thing, you think this is important. This is not like a project defense, where you go and justify why we need to get 200 million to buy one laptop. This is for you, you will be ultimate users to say, we don't think this can work, this can work. So please, forget some of our responses. If you think there are issues you need to focus on, please feel free to tell us.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we are still open after now.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
I mean, you have our lines of communication, and many of you have some of our emails, some have numbers. If you, on the basis of your trying to, I mean, just think about this, if you have an idea, please bounce it off us. We'll be very happy, please. Because ultimately, many of you here will be the users of this system.
All right. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't get a clap of clap, but it doesn't work. There will be certain considerations. The way people, okay, yes. I used to be bigger than him, now he's bigger than me. That's assessment money. That's my suspicion. So, I mean, and that's how the system is going to run. But the point is this, we're going to keep in touch with you because for us, we need to expose you to how the system will work periodically. So after now, we are definitely going to have another meeting where, especially by the time we upload, the system is fully completed and then the course content are fully uploaded. We're going to have something like an orientation. Thereafter, you go back and on your own and at your pace, you'll be able to go through, the training and then be able to conclude it and then do the small test. It's not a safe test. It's not something like jam. It's not something that difficult. But it's just about saying, okay, did you actually read through the course materials? Now, under the law, the ICPC Act, the ICPC is given power to conduct system review. That's one of the major powers the ICPC has. To conduct system review, make recommendations for to organizations, and even ensure that those organizations are taking steps to reduce their corruption susceptibility. Unfortunately, whether they have been doing this well or whether they have been doing adequately, given the size of Nigeria, is not something I would join. But I know they have been making efforts. There are sectors, the port sector, education, water resources, and health. They have made efforts. And the point is that those things have resulted in some cases, their improvement. For example, let me use Olabisi Onabanjo University. When ICPC conducted the university review, in fact, the result for Onabanjo, was very poor. But when they came for this meeting 5 years after, in fact, even when our independent, those who went to conduct focus group discussion, those who did who administered our questionnaires, people on their own, on the students, the staff, academic, non-academic, they were able to report that there has been certain improvement. They are not saying the place is perfect, but that there has been certain improvement. And therefore, with regards to our own system, what we are trying to encourage the government to do and the young people to do is that on the basis of the susceptibility people have observed, either as independent assessors, as members of the public, who can be pushing government to say, you are not going to get public money except you take steps to correct what people are saying are your susceptibility. That if we can tie this to the disbursement of public resources, institutions will have incentive to want to say, okay, let us take steps. Okay, imagine now you just say police because the perception of Nigerians about you guys is so poor. We are going to pay you your basic salary. But some of those your projects, so you want to implement, you are not going to get money for it except you take steps. They will be incentivized because let me tell you, what's the essence of managing a public entity? If you cannot get money for projects to do certain things to show that okay, you are a good manager, you are just only paying salary. Nobody wants to manage an entity that because the only thing we do is just pay salary. What makes people want public office is simply because they can show that they are doing certain things, whether for the right or the wrong reasons. But the point is that it's about encouraging people to comply. Because, and the reason why we need to do that is because on the basis, of the report of MPS, that report has shown clearly that even if the government arrests all the criminals, all the thieves or corrupt people in Nigeria, on the basis of your police, on the basis of your prosecutors, and then on the basis of your judges, you may never get conviction. That's what that report has done. So therefore means that while we want to arrest them, can we encourage institutions too to close the gap in their system? Because more than anything, that report has justified the need for us to look at another approach to combat corruption, which is to prevent it in the first place. You know how many high-profile cases are in court? You know how many have been dismissed? And the reason is not far-fetched. That report shows us police is corrupt. Your prosecutors will mess up your case because they have been criminally induced. And your judges, you cannot rely on them. So what do? Do we not continue that old system? No, we'll continue to arrest, prosecute. But can we equally go back to the source and say, okay, let's reduce the risk. You know the transactions that are risky. If, for example, now, if I don't need to go to passport office to get my passport, will anybody ask me for bribe? And in other parts of the world, people get their passport posted to them. If you have ever had any passport, they have your data. So if I want to renew, why should I go to passport office? When you already have my data, is it not that just about filling a form, posting it to you, and then you process it, then you can send it to me by mail, and by the way, they get money every time you apply for passport for postage. But do they ever post passport to anybody? So these are type of things we can do. Encourage them to do that. It is because people see people, that's why they demand for money. Put in place a system. As bad as it is, TSA has it not certain effect? That's reduced the amount of free money in the system. Even if some are still adding some money, but at least that's reduce it. So these are the type of things we are looking at, that how can we reduce it? It's not a silver bullet, but we know that gradually, if we continue to push, we can start to get certain improvement. I know people before now, I know people want to even sell their houses now, who don't have people to buy. It was before, it was free for all now, money was rolling everywhere. It shows that we have made certain progress. It may not be enough because we know the extent of the loss. But what do? Do we just stand, or do we continue to push small? So it is that part of the small that this project intends to contribute to. Thank you.
The effect of this is schools with no chairs and books for students, hospitals where patients die because of power failure or fake drugs, pensioners who spend their retirement as beggars, graduates with no jobs, internally displaced persons camps filled with slavery and starvation. Does corruption have a direct impact on your life? What do you think is the best way to stop corruption? Nigeria can be likened to a tank with a tap that dispenses funds that will be needed to take care of her citizens' modern health care. Corruption is a gaping hole in this tank, leading to leakages, because the privileged few, the government, private sector, the citizenry have taken advantage of this leaks. Very little, if anything, gets to ordinary Nigerians. So, what's the best way to stop the leakage? Do we punish the people stealing from the leaking holes? Or do we fix the holes? What is your take? Continues to grow at an alarming rate, and the country is being threatened by famine. A fifth of the world's 60 million out-of-school children are Nigerians. Estimates show that 65% of Nigerians can't access modern healthcare services. Nigeria is the second highest contributor to the under 5 mortality rate in the world. Who or what is responsible for Nigeria's disappointing development outcomes? Is the trouble with Nigeria corruption, or failure of leadership, or both? Share your thoughts.
Has informed her that he requires sexual favors in order to give her a pass mark. On the other hand, Professor Chukwuma is contemplating collecting the 50,000 naira offered to him by a student for a pass mark in the course he teaches. But there is Ayo, who got admission and has completed his registration, but would better sign the rule that is his right as a student until he sorts the necessary people. These are real-life situations in our universities, and sadly, most people will comply. Something is very wrong if our schools begin to show people that it is impossible to succeed without abusing the system. What do you think? Share your thoughts and experience. Developing plans to reduce this risk. An organization can self-assess its processes to discover vulnerabilities in the system that can be exploited. All ratings reports will also be validated by independent corruption risk assessors, and members of the public can also use the platform to provide feedbacks on their encounters with corruption in various organizations. Test this software. Only tertiary institutions in the education sector are available for the product release. Try it now.
Outside, we quickly take pictures and then refreshments. And I think, was anybody giving feedback forms?
Yes.
okay, if you can fill them and submit to me or any of the members of the team. But we'll be stepping outside briefly just for pictures and refreshments, and then submission of feedback forms to anybody, either me or Mr. Babatunde or anybody wearing any of the t-shirts.
Good afternoon. My name is Lukman Adefalahon. I work for Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, a TI national contact in Nigeria. I'm here because I expressed interest to be part of the independent assessor for the TAME project. And today, for the launch of the TAME project, I realized that I will encourage integrity organizations to see how they can sustain this initiative, because it's a welcome idea, in the sense that the research has shown that prevention is better than cure. If we are to get it right on the fight against corruption in Nigeria, we need to strengthen our system. And we encourage other partners and other government agencies to key into this initiative and see how they can make themselves available willingly for the self-assessment. And that will give opportunity for integrity to move by involving public as well in this project. So I believe it is an initiative that needs to be sustained, especially among the key government agencies as well. Thank you very much.
Abraham Emiato, that's my name, and I work for Whistleblowers International Foundation. Based on the project, or based on the web application that Integrity want to deploy to the greater society, I know in Nigeria corruption is endemic, but however, what they are trying to do is to ensure that prevention is better than cure. And I know in the nearest future in Nigeria, everybody will begin to understand what Integrity is trying to do, what Integrity is trying to bring on board. Because with the endemic corruption in Nigeria, we will remain where we are, even though we shout from now till tomorrow. If things are not taken into proper perspective, especially in compliance to the details to ensure that corruption is freed in Nigeria, we can minimize it. Even though all will not be eliminated, it can be minimized.
My name is Maro Atsumu. I'm the IT administrator for the Integrity organization, and today we came to present a web-based application to track, analyze, map, and expose corruption risks in service delivery in various sectors of Nigeria. So the project was basically set up in response to the idea that it is much better to prevent corruption than it is to try and cure it. Prevention is a more sustainable and definitely more cheaper, not the only way, but definitely a means that is more affordable in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. Now, the tool that we've developed, which is called Project TAME, is to track, analyze, map, and expose corruption risks in service delivery. We are not trying to shame or name anybody, but we are trying to develop a tool, an application that people can use to expose corruption risks, basically weaknesses in their systems that allow corruption to take place. We've developed a tool that people can use to analyze these weaknesses, expose them, and also develop antidotes to these risks. Basically, a means to take care of the exposure, to reduce their exposure to corruption risks in the system. This way, organizations can actively work to prevent corruption from taking place, reduce the possibility of it happening. And the tool also enables independent assessors, people, members of the public, CSOs, to take part in the prevention process too, by examining these organizations who have rated themselves or who have carried out assessments to verify if the antidotes that they've said they've put in place actively function. Now, we are hoping that with this tool that it would actually actively incentivize organizations and members of the public to examine their processes and learn about how to reduce the risk of corruption happening. This way, hopefully, they'll be able to prevent corruption and make Nigeria a much better place. That's the idea of the project.
My name is Oladoyin Olawaye. I am the project manager on a project called Project TAME. Project TAME stands for Track, Analyze, Map and Expose Corruption Risk. And the inception of this project started because we were thinking as an organization, I work for Integrity Organization, we were thinking that there should be a better approach to fighting corruption, one that is more inclusive. So we know that the approach so far has been on tracking down and going after the corrupt. But this time around we said, how about we look at corruption prevention, which is a topic that has been really neglected in the past few years. So why are people corrupt to begin with? What allows corruption to thrive in our society? So that's really the origins of the project. How our project came to be was to look for a better approach through corruption prevention. And so this project aims to try to expose where corruption risks are. So if an organization is a known corruption risk, obviously you as a person looking to get services from that organization, you would be well advised that, okay, this organization, for instance, there's a lot of corruption, so I should expect that things may not go the way I want it to go. So it's an incentive really for people to do right, as opposed to punishing the bad ones. So yes, we can punish those that have done wrong, but what incentives are there for those who do right? So doing right means, like I said, being able to be compliant, that you have the right systems in place, you have the right mechanisms in place to prevent corruption. So the project started looking at the university sector to begin with, the tertiary educational sector. And the reason why we said the tertiary educational sector is because we feel that obviously we have a lot of influential people in the universities. So young people have an active voice. So where they've been shunned in terms of service provision, they will be able to speak up against it. So that was really one of our motivations to look into pilot test with the universities. So we tested in 11 universities across the country and came back with research that would suggest those that have put things in place, those that are putting things in place, and those that may not have put the right systems and mechanisms in place. So this project is also looking to obviously scale up to other sectors. It's not just for the educational sector. We'll look to scale up eventually. So today, at this point in our project, we decided to do a public presentation of the web application that we've built. This web application is looking to track and analyze, map and expose corruption risk. So we are essentially looking to be able to rate corruption risk. So people will go in there and self-assess themselves. So organizations can assess themselves whether they have the right systems and mechanisms in place. But in addition to that, we would have a verified analysis or a verified assessment of what the organization has put in place. So we're training individuals who we term watchdogs or assessors to be able to go to all these organizations that would have self-assessed themselves to verify if what they said they have in place is actually true. So that's the whole web application in the sum. Also, there's a platform for the public to also give us feedback on what's happening in the various institutions. So far what we've done is to develop this. We would look to roll it out in the coming months, but also we've been engaging with the public for them to get an understanding of how well corruption affects your daily lives. So how well corruption affects service provision, and a result of a decline in service provision, it affects you as a person. So we've done a lot of videos to that point, and we've publicized the videos on our social media platforms and on TV. So we look forward to doing so much more and just really empowering the people to join into the fight
against corruption. Thank you.